still a sore subject. We're not allowed to bring it up at Christmas.
I'm fucking real, bro. You ain't shit.
I mean, if I can't say something that just cut cold or make someone laugh, I don't even type it.
You a fucking punk-ass bitch!
Jesus Christ, that hurt. I'm still got a headache over that.
I'm the greatest man talking on the fucking face of the earth right now.
You should be thanking me that I'm talking about Tennessee. You guys can't coach, to be honest with you. It's a high school coach.
Fuck me.
What is it all with again? What's over again?
Lou,
Quit it, not feeling good.
Yeah, go ahead, Unabomber. What the fuck are you saying about the SEC, bro?
Don't be ridiculous right now, okay?
No, USC is far better than Oklahoma historically.
Can we get a timeout just for half a second?
Because I want motherfuckers like you every goddamn day!
I just can't believe y'all put a statue of this guy already at your campus.
Dude, whatever you're smoking, buy a ton of it.
You a fucking punk-ass bitch!
Then it makes me look like I got owned or something.
Smacking off.
And welcome to another galvanizing edition of Smacking Off, the podcast. We've got a very interesting subject we're going to talk about tonight. We're going to kind of dance around some of the obvious issues that you've seen on social media, but we've got the Commissioner Greg Sankey from the SEC is now going on record saying that if the state of Mississippi passes this, HB 1038, I believe is the new gun law that's coming up. It's actually an addendum to their existing gun laws that they have on file as far as where you can bring your open carry weapon to or concealed carry. Mm-hmm. They now have this new, like an extended open carry or something like that, where you can
special license.
Yeah, you get a special license. You basically have to take an 8-hour course by either a state or nationally trained a gun trainer,
right?
And
a state sanctioned gun trainer.
But yes, state or national, and I think they have certain criteria that they have set up in there for that. And what happens is you get your special little permit so that you can carry in places that you normally couldn't carry. One of those places just happens to be college football games.
Right.
And Greg Sankey has pretty much gone on record now saying that if the state of Mississippi is to do this, then most likely there will be programs within the SEC conference that will not play games.
To me, it almost sounded like he was just basically saying that nobody is going to Mississippi if that happens. It's like he could actually stop teams from going there.
Well, we've got a dear friend of ours. He's actually a fellow that I used to podcast it up with years ago over at Anti-Media. Dear friend of the show, Mr. Kevin Knight.
No firearms or weapons are permitted on this property. Violators will be considered trespassers and will be subject to arrest.
Surely one person cannot have that much power to decide something unilaterally that, as big as an event as college football, it's not the pros, but, there's a lot of money and lawyers and people behind the scenes, that work to make this big of a beast run. It's just hard to believe that one individual would have that much power to decide the fate of games to be held at Mississippi, all because of, what their opinion is of what their interpretation is of a particular bill that's not even passed yet.
He's at least throwing that out there. He's the commissioner. I don't know what his power is. I know that we had this. I'm going to say maybe in 2016 with a similar thing in Arkansas.
Right. Well, I'm not surprised, and I'm sure that Mississippi. I'm surprised they've not pointed to Arkansas yet. In their claims of what would actually happen. Do we know what happened as a result of that? So, what did happen in Arkansas? So are they allowing this same thing to go on with these particular permits?
Well, that's the thing, is that Arkansas football isn't relevant, so nobody really gives a fuck. So.
Right, gotcha.
that's really about the size.
No,
of
but when it comes down on Arkansas, I think that they amended something, and in Arkansas they may have actually changed the law. I'm not sure. But Sankey pulled the. I don't know if it was Sankey then. I think Sankey was not the commissioner at the time.
That would have been. Oh God, what was the other one's name? That's
the guy before Sankey.
Yeah, Mr. Commissioner.
Yes. He said something similar, but I think they end up amending something, that.
Gotcha.
I don't know.
So when do we know when this bill is actually going to be voted on? And I tried to look in line to see if there was any kind of, if I could get an idea of which way it was going. I'm not sure which way the Senate leads, to know if it's probably going to be split on party lines. So I'm not sure if the Democrats control the House at the moment, or the Senate at the moment or not. Do either of you guys know?
Yeah, it's passed the Mississippi House by an 80 to 29 votes.
Wow.
All that. What about going forward
now,
to the Senate?
As far as going forward to the Senate, I'm actually looking as we speak, but I do not see the actual date that they will be voting on it. So I would imagine this vote's going to take place very soon, probably before the next or the upcoming football season.
They may not have set a date yet.
Oh, they're still in session, I wonder? I mean, they just passed this bill, so I guess they probably
I don't
are.
know. I'm not really hip to the Mississippi Senate. I'm not really hip to the Alabama Senate, if you want to get that. Which is kind of funny because this is a conversation we're going to be having. This conversation, and the three of us are not affiliated as a Republican or Democrat, which I think is probably very important going into this conversation. For the folks
nobody
listening.
can accuse us of being a stooge for their local party. Looks like Mississippi Senate is controlled. President of the Senate, the president is a Republican, pro-temp Republican. Looks like the Republicans have this pretty well. So I would imagine there's 33 Republicans, 19 Democrats. So I'm not sure what majority they have to make that, to push that through. But I would say this is probably going to pass with a lot of course, party line opposition. But, it is what it is. Of course, the Mississippi just passed another big gun bill, last year when they allowed open carry into a number of places, including the bars. I know that was kind of a big fuss. They allowed into bars and nightclubs.
But as it stands right this moment, you cannot carry a gun into the Egg Bowl, for instance.
Is that right?
As it stands, you cannot carry a weapon into a college football game. And that's the problem with this.
It's a good thing that free men don't ask permission. Of course, I would never advocate breaking the law, and I imagine there probably are metal detectors that would prohibit said free man from doing so. So I think it's a win for gun rights, but I don't doubt there are guns in that facility probably at all times that are not being carried by law officers. So it'll be interesting, man. I think it's the same case is being made in Mississippi as it is all over the place, that everybody's going to be in danger. Everybody's going to be carrying guns. It's going to be the wild, wild west all over again. So it's no surprise that they're doing the same thing in Mississippi as they're doing nationwide. So we'll see what happens, man. But I think the Republicans are going to pass it, and everybody else can go sit on attack.
Well, and that's where the rub comes in with, concerning the SEC and Greg Sankey, because he's pretty much.
How much influence is this going to have, too? I mean, he's basically saying.
And look, to be fair, how much influence can he have on individual programs? Because we're also talking about the Southeastern Conference, which is largely made up of mostly red states. I mean, let's get down to it.
Right.
So you're going to it'll be the same thing that we're seeing in the NFL right now. With the whole, anthem protests and this, that, and the other, which is pretty much a lot of folks in your red states are we're turning off the NFL. We're not going to fool with that no more. I'll get my football fix from my college football. We have Greg Sankey saying, well, no, don't be bringing your guns in the stadium. Well, hey, wait a minute. I want to bring my guns in the stadium. And again, at the end of the day, what does this have to do with the game?
It's nothing. It's more politics. And on top of that, you've got to have an enhanced pistol permit. How many individuals do you think are now?
Look, and all that is, and I read into that, all that is pretty much is you take an 8-hour course by some state or nationally sanctioned shooting instructor, and then you pay a little extra money, and bam, you're enhanced. So,
right. And how many individuals are going to suddenly run out to get their
now again,
permit?
You would be surprised. Some people will just straight up just to go get it just for bragging rights. I mean,
I would definitely get one anyways. But I mean, as far as now, I can suddenly take one into a football game if I didn't already have one. And maybe that's just me, but that's not going to cause me to go out. And I imagine the amount of individuals. No doubt there will be some cases of that, but it's not going to be some overwhelming, swell of people going to get enhanced permits just so they can carry inside a football game. I don't see that happening, but I still, Doug, you mentioned the power of the commissioner. I'm surprised that nobody is coming out to challenge, at least from what I've seen. Maybe they are in his state, but this guy seems to be thinking he's wielding a lot of power, and it either is going unchecked, or at least it's not being discussed openly, the amount of opposition that he's got.
Well, and look, Greg Sankey is the commissioner of the SEC, which is arguably right now in 2018 probably the most powerful conference in the United States. Arguably, I won't say that definitively.
The most profitable last year.
There's a few guests we'd have on here that would say something to the contrary.
They wouldn't use any numbers, though.
But we're talking about a large business organization that's a multi-billion-dollar, or at least over $1 billion. Total revenue. So yeah, I guess power is kind of a tricky word when we're talking about this sort of thing.
Influence is a great deal, but how much actual power?
That's a good question.
When it comes to paper,
that's a really good question.
But here's my question: let's just for a second assume that he really can make it to where none of the other SEC schools will go to Mississippi if this don't turn out the way that he wants it to. What kind of financial impact are we looking at for the state of Mississippi over that? We're talking about all of the home games for Mississippi State and Ole Miss. They would basically, to remain in the conference, they would have to try to pick a neutral side in another state as their home, or either that or they would have to go to the other team's stadium to play their home game.
Mm-hmm.
I think if a case is made from that perspective, consider Mississippi is not exactly a rich state, and the tax dollars that I'm sure they bring in from their football team and from the SEC in general, I could see that bill being flattened, going nowhere, if in the effect it's going to do that much financial damage to Mississippi with the influence a commissioner has. Wouldn't be surprised if that bill is dead, if it doesn't make it to the Senate, strictly from the financial aspect of it.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. I don't know that Sankey has the type of power that he's acting like he does, and I don't know that he doesn't. It seems like it would be
influence, yes, but actual real power.
Can he make it? Can he actually forbid schools to go play in Mississippi?
Why would they have a board? Why would they have a board of trustees or even other individuals involved in the decision-making process if ultimately he's going to be to act as more or less a dictator in this sense? And then this, it reeks of political grandstanding. I say, he's going to, of course, the ones are going to say it's all about safety. It's not about politics. It's all about safety. But it's hard to believe that individual is not concerned with the political statement that is being made, or at least that some are hearing out of this. Mississippi being a strong gun state, I'm sure there's a lot of Republicans that are pushing for this that could probably care less about actually going to a Mississippi game and carrying a firearm. I'm sure there's plenty of people that want to see this actually pass.
What?
Smackingoff.com.
What?
Smackingoff.com.
What?
Smackingoff.com.
What?
Smackingoff.com.
What?
Smackingoff.com.
Home of the official podcast of college football Snap.
Strictly from a freedom aspect. So, yeah, it's hard to believe there's not politics involved somewhere. When sports and politics mix, who knows what you're going to get.
Well, and this is hot on the heels of the incident that happened recently in Florida with the school shooting, which we're not really going to go into ad nauseum here. There are plenty of other places, plenty of other podcasts and newscasts and so on and so forth you can go and listen to all that about. But, the timing is, timing is a little bit, I guess a little too soon maybe. Probably why. Because I'm struggling as we're having this conversation to come up with a good reason why Sankey even brought this up to begin with, other than okay, we're hot on the heels of this other incident. So
I think it came out before the shooting.
Oh, okay. It's just
it's
just now being
it's
being widely reported right now because of recent.
Everything gun related right now is being elevated.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's crazy. This isn't the first time. I know, Doug, I think you said this bill was already in motion. I'm sure it was. Looking back, I saw mention a year ago where there was a bill passed and it allowed, and I may need to go back and read this, but allowed for several restrictions to be removed, allowing more freedom really to carry guns elsewhere. But I thought it was interesting that the commission has already weighed in themselves, allowing guns to be carried in some of these, I mentioned earlier, some of these what they call off public or not public venues at the school. So there seems to be almost even a power struggle between what the school feels like, what the SEC feels like, and what the state law says. Again, this law does not change anything. All it does is give the individual with these particular permits the ability. It doesn't grant them anything. It just gives them the ability to actually sue. And who knows if those lawsuits would ever go anywhere. I would imagine there's probably a long, drawn-out case. And maybe that's what they're also afraid of, is what kind of precedents will be set. As soon as an individual actually does sue and does win, it probably opens up a whole nother, series of actions and questions that are going to have to be thought about and decided on.
Now, if this is private property, though, in the state of Mississippi, a private citizen, though, can still put the properly displayed sign saying that, no, you can't bring a firearm into this place and it has to be adhered to.
Right.
And that's only in private residences. So which I'm all about, all about property rights. I think all three of us are.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah. So, it's going to be interesting to see how this thing plays out. It really is. And again, now bear in mind, Greg Sankey has not come forth with any edicts or well, this is going to have to happen or this, that, and the other. All he suggested is that there's other teams in the conference that might not play in the state of Mississippi if this law goes through.
And he's saying they might not. He's probably just trying to get out in front of this. That wouldn't surprise me. And maybe a lot of this is semantics. Maybe he doesn't have any power whatsoever, and he's just throwing this out there and hoping that others on the fear wagon will pick it up and run. So that may be just as much a part of this. I just can't believe that one individual, while they have a lot of influence, have that much power to influence those kind of decisions. With as much money as made behind that, and I'm surprised we don't hear other opposition. Maybe, like I said, maybe there is. We don't live in the state of Mississippi, and I'm not kept up with it as much as I probably should. So have you guys seen much opposition from anybody other than the SEC president?
Well, and again, you've had like, there's I'm sitting here looking through one of the various different news stories about this right now. And, the one of the MSU faculty or staff, one of the higher ups over there, has expressed some concern. I mean, again, when we talk about, and it's really hard to have this conversation and not use some of those divisive political terms like liberal or conservative or things like that. But, we all know that, college campuses by and large, for the most part, are populated with a liberal staff or liberal leaning staff. Right. So that's kind of, that sort of thing coming from a faculty member from MSU is kind of to be expected maybe a little bit.
Away from the legal side of this. And then you're gonna get this from left leaning people that have concerns about going into a stadium where people are allowed to carry guns. What would you say to that, Kevin?
Well, I mean, they're all around us every day. Certainly, I would think an individual probably, again, keeping in mind that this does not allow all individuals to carry guns, and not even just licensed firearm holders. This is actually a certain type of permit that individuals will carry. So the amount of guns that an individual in Mississippi is around every day in their private life is probably significantly more on their day-to-day than it is the one time they're in a Mississippi a football game. So, I would even compare it to some of the issues that we've raised here in Alabama. If I pay money to come to your event, and of course, Shannon, you brought up the point about public property or private property, are you going to protect me? It's up to me to protect me and mine. So if I come to your facility, am I therefore giving up my right or my need or my role to protect myself? And is the individual or is the school going to now be responsible for my safety if I'm willing to give up and leave my vehicle in the car?
You mean
I've been told I can't carry my gun in a number of places, and I don't mind saying that I do that. I'm a concealed weapons permit holder, but I'm sorry, guys, a sign means less to me than my person and my life. So, I think there's a big case to be made that if you're telling me I have to leave my gun in the car, then you should be responsible for my safety. But then again, to what degree? This is obviously not private.
Well, if you're talking private property,
say.
then they can always come back and say, well, you don't have to come
But,
back.
we're talking about the University of Mississippi and Mississippi State, where that's not private property. I mean, that's about as public as you can get.
Right.
Now, having said that, let's talk about the places that you cannot, even doesn't matter what permit you have, places that you cannot carry a gun in the state of Mississippi. Courtrooms.
Courtrooms. You can actually keep it. You can actually take it in the courthouse, but can't take it in the courtroom. I know that's one.
Unless you have permission from the judge, from the sitting judge on the bench in that courtroom.
Oh, gotcha.
Yes. That actually, I saw that little tidbit today. Can't take it into a sheriff's office. Can't walk up in the police station with your gun on your hip.
So guys watching the videos, doing the open carry dance, going in there, armed with AR-15s and helmets and face masks.
I saw that.
They shouldn't venture into, huh?
Yeah,
don't
do that in Mississippi.
Talked to a few people left-leaning on this that you kind of nailed it earlier when you said Wild Wild West. That's what they think it's going to be. If you let people, they think there's going to be shooting.
We already have over 500 million guns in America. It already is the Wild Wild West.
But it's not.
Again, that's why a lot of
it's not. It's not like people shooting at each other everywhere you go.
But at the same time, though, that's why all of these law-abiding gun owners right now are throwing a fit. Because trust me, all you have to do is go and you and I both know this. We can go to certain parts of this town, and it is the Wild Wild West, where you would certainly feel a whole lot safer with a gun on your person because just about everybody you're coming in contact has a gun on their person, and they didn't obtain theirs legally.
Right. And when they shoot you with it, they're just going to throw it in the woods and haul ass.
Or just throw it right beside you and go get another one right up the street for $50.
Right. But anyway, that's.
Try to stay away from those places if need be. But of course, Shannon, Doug, I imagine you probably. I'm not sure what your vocation is, but I know Shannon. Both of our vocations take us into some bad areas. So of course, at times we need to carry firearms.
Now, to be fair, and I'm there's full disclosure here. I have never, ever carried a firearm. I have a old revolver in this house that actually belongs to Doug's dad. It's a loaner that I just keep here just to keep the peace. That's it. That's the only firearm that I've ever had in my possession in my whole entire adult life. And
I'm assuming you
and all you do is.
And it's not because I have any personal aversions to gun. Actually, it's mainly because I'm a dumbass. I'm clumsy as fuck. And for the longest time, up until the past 3 years, I drank very heavily. So yeah, I didn't have to have.
So I
didn't need to have a firearm.
You just use it to keep the peace. So what you're saying is, when y'all get in an argument every now and then, you just pull it out and shoot it up into there.
Yeah. Okay. Speaking of which, there's a couple holes in the ceiling we got to deal with later on.
Shannon, I assume you've probably committed to memory every MacGyver episode. I'm assuming you don't need guns, right? Just whip out some foil, some toothpicks and safety pins and tell a joke, and everything's all right in the Madden.
That's pretty much how we roll. You know how that goes. But at the same time, though, that's just me personally, and I support anybody's. If anybody feels like they need to have 500 guns in their house and they need to have a gun at every single place that they can reach in their house, that's their right. I don't see why responsible, law-abiding people need to be regulated and governed any more than we already are. Why do we need more legislation to tell us to do the right thing when we're already trying to do the right thing, trying to protect ourselves from the people that are out to do the wrong thing?
The 24-hour bug. When he hits your stomach, he makes you miserable. Nothing can make him go away, but something can make him easier to live with. Pepto-Bismol liquid. Pepto-Bismol's coating action soothes the nausea and relieves the upset that makes you feel so awful. Take Pepto-Bismol liquid until the bug stops bugging you.
They wake up every day feeling like, how can they make a difference? And it's a difference in mindset. Some of us wake up every day and think, how can we do our part to make society more free? and other individuals wake up every day and look and say, how can we impact society that ultimately takes away the rights or infringes on the rights?
I don't feel safe. There ought to be a law. Yeah. I don't feel safe. There ought to be a law.
Right, exactly. In the fields. When a lot of these politician types feel like they have to justify their positions, and so they do what they do, and they respond to either very, very few times do they respond to their constituents, but usually more to their sponsors or whoever's in their back pocket, or that the one mother who's screaming the loudest about her son that was killed by a drunk driver, which of course all of us have sympathy for that, but we got to be careful about prescribing a problem, a fix for a problem that's not there, that affects.
Yeah, let me ask a quick question. How many people did alcohol kill last year?
Oh man,
so
probably more than surely more than that were killed in Iraq and Afghanistan.
Absolutely.
Forget that. Prescription drugs.
Oh man, don't get me started there. Fentanyl. I lost my own sister-in-law to fentanyl a couple years ago.
But here's the big question here, the one that we really have dodged through this whole thing. How is this going to affect the 2018 and 19 football season?
Well, we're talking about Ole Miss and Mississippi State. Mississippi State, of course, has a brand new coach, and Ole Miss kind of has a brand new sort of coach, whatever Brian is out there. Poor little fellow.
Kevin, you're an Auburn fan, aren't you?
No, I am an Alabama fan. Roll Tide, baby.
Thank you.
Okay.
Passively. I'm more of a combat sports fan, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times I'm working. But I did catch several Alabama games this year.
I'll tell you what we need to do sometime. And this was actually told to me by your brother. We need to go down and see the frozen, what are they called? The frozen tide? Alabama's hockey team plays down in Pelham. They have a hockey team.
That's right. I've actually been to one of their games. I know Chase goes pretty often.
Yeah, that's who I was talking about.
Really?
Yeah.
Why don't I know about this?
I don't know, but it's like $4 or $5.
I knew that they had some sort of hockey thing going on down there. I'm not
$4 or $5. Chase says there's typically at least one fight.
Shut up, man! That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. They sell beer too. If you're an alcohol fan, I went to my girlfriend and I went last time. Met up with several of the Libertarian Party of Alabama members. I know a couple of those guys get together and go periodically. Shannon, we ought to all get together and go.
That sounds like fun.
The frozen tide.
Definitely. When y'all get another outing together, hit me up. Invite me.
Most certainly will.
Yeah. We could take Tabby to that. Tabby'd like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that'd be fun. I don't think Bretta would like that so much.
I don't know.
Hey, it's fun, man. And tell her, if you've never been to a game before, I can see where if you're not a big sports fan, I would say it's probably kind of like NASCAR. If you're not a fan of NASCAR, I'm told if you go and actually see an event live, it will change your perspective. Hockey up close, when guys are slamming into the boards and the puck and everybody's going every which way. To me, it's just extremely exciting. My girlfriend had never seen a hockey game, wasn't really big into it, but she absolutely loved it. So there's a lot there to be entertained by, certainly.
Alabama is actually stepping up. They're not in the hockey divisions are different than football. I mean, they're not even like Kentucky's not even in the Southeastern Conference, and Alabama's not in the Southeastern Conference in hockey either. I don't think.
Really?
But I think they're actually headed there.
That's strange. That's just the whole.
I don't think the SEC actually sanctions hockey.
Wow.
But anyway, it's some oddities.
So now, I got to ask, Kevin, when you go to these hockey matches, are you able to bring your gun?
Am I able to, or do I ask, man? It's a lot easier to ask for forgiveness than it is permission.
So there is no metal detector at the hockey rink there.
No. Well, I say this: there was not metal detectors the last time I went.
So, well, that's cool though.
Man, so I always carry my blade. So if I do not carry my firearm, for instance, if I'm going to be drinking, I generally try not to. I won't say always, but I generally will leave my vehicle at home just so I can avoid any conflict with the police officers, such as the one I ran into last weekend, leaving a fight.
Responsible gun ownership.
I carry my knives always, which I don't usually have an issue with. So I'm armed or bladed at least, and I'll carry wherever I can possibly carry. That's for sure.
Excellent. And so that means that means when I go to this hockey match, I'm going to be protected.
Yes.
Yes, you're sitting next to an armed individual.
Excellent. I'm down with that.
$5, I think, is what a ticket costs.
Oh man, I got $5.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I got $5 on it.
Wait, how do you know I got $5?
I feel like you should.
Okay.
But anyway, okay, we've gotten to the bottom of the SEC debacle with Mississippi and the new gun law and Sankey's blowing hot air, and pretty soon you're going to be becoming.
I don't see where his end game is with this. I really don't.
I think he's just trying.
Particularly if the state of Mississippi goes forward, which it looks like they are, as convincingly as it passed in the House, 80-29.
And the Senate's controlled by Republicans also, so I see it passing. To be honest with you,
but they could end up doing the same thing that Arkansas did. Would be
kind of just gently erase that one off the list.
Basically, make a
just table it, not hear it.
Amendment, make an amendment, and basically where you can't take them into the stadiums.
Yeah.
But I mean, this is not all about football stadiums. This is about the whole state, right?
Yeah.
From my understanding, it is, yes.
Right. Okay. Well.
So I don't know. I mean, I guess leave your guns at home in Mississippi if you're going to go to the football games, according to Greg Sankey. Let's see how that works out for him. And you know, I don't know. I don't see how he thought this whole process through, because there's bound to be some backlash. Because again, the Southeastern Conference is comprised largely of red.
But they did
the reddest of red states.
They did this in 2016. I don't think Trump was president at the time.
Yeah, we're in a slightly different political landscape.
Actually, did the same.
Even with all of the most recent events that happened out of Florida and that out in Las Vegas and the other mass shooting events that have happened, I still don't see this playing out as a favorable thing for Sankey when it's all said and done. You're going to have a lot of your average,
but your
average Bubba football fan from the SEC is going to there's going to be some backlash.
But this was it was successful the last time they did it.
Yeah,
they basically said that Arkansas may not that none of the teams.
Because what's going to wind up happening is you'll have let's pick a team out of it. We'll say Florida, for instance.
Right.
Florida's got an Ole Miss game coming up on the schedule. Florida decides to go ahead and take the Greg Sankey thing, and again, with it being the Florida Gators and what's happened recently in the state of Florida and this, that, and the other, there might be some heartstrings tugged, and next thing you know, you're going to have a lot of on the message boards, and we see it play out just like what happened to Shiano at Tennessee. Where you're going to have a bunch of good old boys are going to get online, and there's going to be a fuss made about it, and next thing you know, Sankey's going to have to backpedal, or Florida's going to have to backpedal.
It didn't happen with Arkansas. What happened with Arkansas is they amended it.
Yeah.
I don't know if they amended it because of the SEC stance, but the SEC basically said.
But we're in a completely different political landscape now, even just a couple of years later.
Yeah.
Again, the Shiano hire is a perfect example of what I'm talking about, where a fan base rallies together and they say, nope, we're not putting up with this. And I know it's two completely separate issues, but I really kind of feel that if this does gain steam and Sankey gets more vocal about it, that's how it's going to wind up playing out. Then it's going to be taken to the matter of
I've
public
actually
opinion.
talked to a few people that I think they were blowing hot air, but basically said if the SEC goes through with this, I'm not watching SEC football anymore.
Yeah, and that's
these are SEC fans.
Yeah,
not even in Mississippi schools.
Yeah,
actually, an Alabama guy told me that.
Yeah. Now, do you think that's actually really going to happen, though? Come on. Especially some of these guys that are also said the same thing about NFL games that sneak a couple peeks at the Super Bowl this year. Come on.
No, I don't believe that most people have that kind of conviction.
Yeah.
But anyway.
We're fixing to, we're going to go ahead and wind it down. Man, we really appreciate you coming on the show.
Yep, great insight.
Thanks for letting me be here, man. Miss seeing you guys and talking to you.
You need to come up visit us sometime, man. You know where I'm at. You know where I'm at. Come visit.
Yeah, we'll put some catfish on.
Certainly, man. Let's all get to an Alabama. Was it the Frozen Tide? Let's all go see a hockey game.
I'm down with that, man. Seriously, next one y'all go to, hit me up.
Definitely, man. You guys have a good evening.
Take care, brother. Later. Smacking Off invites you to join us on the podcast. If you have an opinion on an upcoming game, some commentary on your conference, or want to roll with one of your fellow smackers on air, hit us up. You can message us at the Smacking Off or X's and O's Facebook pages. Email me at maddenshannon@toothfairy.com or call us on the Smack line, 304-508-BAIT. And as always, fuck your team.
The most likely scenario here, Pete, that this all comes out, right? Let's say it all comes out. I like how you say it's not going to be like a document day in the same way like it's signing day, right?
Yeah.
So
pick up the FBI hat.
So at some point where this whole thing comes to an end and then it gets dropped in the NCAA's lap to figure out what to do, or you think that this might be a case where it gets so bad the federal government actually steps in and we might have to rethink the way that we have amateur athletics in this country?
You know, those are great questions, and I don't know the answer to it because I don't know how much of this stuff is going to get released. I do think a lot of it eventually will get out, but I don't know how much. I don't know if the government is going to be compelled to hand over information to the NCAA. I don't know how much would be subject to open records requests because it's public record. So there are a lot of variables here, and this may surprise you, but I went to journalism school and not law school, so a lot of it is out of my very limited intellectual threshold in terms of like the nuances of the legalities of this. But the smart people that I've talked to about this and been sort of quoting throughout this case indicate that it's probably going to come out in drips and drabs, but it's going to be wide sweeping. And I think we're taking off, Rich. So
all
I
right.
gotta go.
There you go, Pete Thamel. Thanks for joining. Appreciate it.
What it do, motherfuckers? Hey, it's your boy Teddy Sheckelsworth coming to you live and direct. Well, it ain't live because I'm recording this shit, but you know what I'm saying? Cheers. Let me get there. Yee! All right. I want to talk about a couple things in here. First of all, ooh, the Kush got me. The Louisville men's basketball program has disgraced the great conference of the Atlantic. Being a diehard Hokies fan like I am, Hokie high, I feel like these motherfuckers need to be kicked out of the conference. You know what I'm saying? They got banners coming down in Louisville. They ain't contributing nothing to the motherfucking ACC. I'm about tired of them. About tired of them already. They come in here, they act like they're gonna take over shit, and they don't do nothing. They don't do nothing but make us look bad. I can't do it no more, y'all. I can't do it no more with these motherfuckers from Louisville. They cheating. It's horrible. Y'all motherfuckers in Louisville know what I'm talking about too. Y'all act like it ain't no big deal. Y'all lost the motherfucking championship now. 1986. 1980. It's all you got now. It's all you got. That's all I heard was, we're the best team in the state of Kentucky because we won the last championship in the state. Come on now. Is it for real, for real? Because I don't see the banner no more. Look, my cat trying to get up in here. Come here, baby. Come here, baby. Tell these fools. Tell them, look, she said kiss her ass. She said kiss her ass. Louisville motherfuckers. Y'all just mad. I ain't got time to argue with you. I don't get paid to argue with you. Y'all just mad. Y'all big mad.
The Smacking Off podcast. We're joined with a friend of the show, Mr. Robert Arthur, to discuss the NCAA men's basketball scandal, particularly Louisville. First off, Mr. Robert, how are you tonight?
I'm good. What about you?
Man, I can't complain. I can't complain a single bit because, quite frankly, I'm not really a Louisville fan. Let's talk about it. Yeah, this is a good one. They pretty much had to take the 2013 flag down.
Is this the first team that has officially gotten sanctions over this?
Yeah, in NCAA basketball, it's the first team to have physically and in reality had a national channel vacated. But as we know, in college football, it's relatively common.
Yeah.
Now, and of course, now this is not. We're going to be talking about a lot of the recruiting scandal, this, that, and the other. But this is actually related to a sex scandal involving players, recruits, and prostitutes. And no Hugh Freeze this time. And yeah, they had to pretty much dump a bunch of victories, and they are no longer the 2013 national champions.
Yeah, they actually physically removed the banner from the Yum Center this afternoon.
I wonder what they did with it. Did they like burn it?
Oh, I bet you they put it in the closet somewhere. That in case some kind of magical appeal breaks out, they can drag it back out again and talk about how great it was. Of course, they might wrap it up around themselves with some kind of secret Louisville society or something. You never know.
Perhaps, yeah.
They lost the appeal, didn't they? Today.
Oh yeah, they lost the appeal. I mean, I didn't expect them to win it. I mean, they're so deluded that they actually thought that they could win an appeal. But I mean, there's been so many egregious violations by Louisville. It's just these are just the latest ones. I mean, it's just one after another. I think Tino thought he was bigger than NCAA, bigger than the law. You know.
I haven't looked into this specific. I know that they got stripped of the championship. Is there going to be any scholarship reductions or anything?
Well, so that's the next phase. I mean, as you know, the FBI is investigating 36 to 50 schools, right? And that's not what happened to Louisville today was just the tip of the iceberg. And when you have Arizona is implicated, 3 other assistant coaches, several NBA scouts, and player agents, and basically you have the shoe companies paying backdoor money to friends of the family and the family of kids, so they'll point them in the direction that a certain shoe company will want. So far, Adidas has been implicated, but there's whispers about North Carolina for sure. It's just that Louisville was caught red-handed. There's a money trail. They're already out there. I think for the reason they use Louisville is Louisville was already on its way down, and they were a convenient target. But I don't think that. I think that if you take all the teams involved in this, if you have an NCAA tournament this year, that your number 11 seed will probably be the national championship by the time everything's vacated.
Wow, that's interesting. You think this is going to fall like dominoes? Are we going to?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think it's going to transform the game the way that City College in New York scandal did in the 50s.
When do you see the next news coming down, and you think we're going to be looking at something weekly?
Well, see, the difference between the FBI and the NCAA is that the FBI doesn't have to release any information until there's actually court proceedings.
Right.
Now, if there's discovery of evidence that gets leaked for whatever reason, then obviously the NCAA will have to act on it. But the NCAA moves even slower than the FBI. That's why I think an NCAA tournament will be played this year for sure. And there's so much money involved in that. I mean, I know y'all come from football country,
right?
But the East Coast, Kentucky, Indiana, places like that, college basketball is every bit as big.
I definitely realize that.
Right, and it's religion here in Indiana. I mean, parts of California, Southern California, New York, everywhere on the East Coast. I mean, this game's a religion, you know. And that's like Louisville. I mean, as a Kentucky fan, I'm here snickering about it. The truth of it is, Louisville's part of the culture of my home state as well.
Yeah.
They won 2 national championships under Denny Crum. A friend of my family played for Denny Crum and hung the banner in 1986. And personally hung it. His best friend's married to my sister. And I knew him a little bit in school. I mean, there's ties to this region because UK was too good to recruit from Eastern Kentucky at one time. For a long time, Louisville would recruit here, but Kentucky wouldn't. I mean, the UK don't know that the state exists beyond Winchester, and they think it's like a flat Earth thing. You know what I mean? Like you'll fall off the edge or something.
Yeah.
They think that Eastern Kentucky is due south of Lexington in Richmond somehow. You know. But anyway, I hate it for Louisville in one hand, but because of the way that Rick Pitino went there and rubbed it in the face of Kentucky, it's changed the whole tenor of the relationship between UK and Louisville fans.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Used to in the old days, if UK lost the tournament, Louisville was still alive, that people would root Louisville. You know.
Yeah, I get that. I was cracking up because I'm reading about this story. Kind of boning up, if you will. Can I use that phrase for this particular story safely? They unsuccessfully argued last January that the quote unquote benefits that the athletes were provided, which we're talking about prostitutes, lap dances, so on and so forth, that the athletes were provided only cost several $100s. And they even went as far to write, the university does not believe these dances or sexual activities greatly assisted its recruiting efforts.
University of Louisville fans, send personalized calls to your friends and family from head coach Rick Pitino using celebcalls.com. With over 30 types of calls to choose from, have Rick call and tell your friends happy birthday, give them basketball advice, or talk smack about their favorite team. Visit celebcalls.com. Pick your celeb, personalize, and schedule your call today. That's celebcalls.com.
Smackingoff.com.
What?
Smackingoff.com.
What?
Smackingoff.com.
What?
Smackingoff.com.
What?
Smackingoff.com.
Home of the official podcast of college football Snap.
So first, right out of the gate, first thing I'm thinking is that maybe they didn't get, really, really like hot prostitutes. I mean, if you're going to get these kids, these kids are, they're on the internet, they're exposed to all sorts of things. I mean, if you're going to get their attention, you really need some hot chicks. I'm just throwing that out there.
What's the chances that this touches Kentucky?
Well, I mean, if you want to go on history, UK's been sanctioned like 5 times in its entire history.
Right.
And they, Calipari himself had Final Fours vacated at Memphis and Massachusetts, so I'm not going to go on no self-righteous tirade here. But I think in the terms of Kentucky now and Calipari now is we don't have to pay players at Kentucky anymore because they're just doing their 1 year until the NBA pays them.
Exactly.
Right, and they're also going, he's just something that all the average player outside of Kentucky or the average person outside of Kentucky probably doesn't know. Well, these players play at Kentucky, and then they sign with the agent. They sign with the agent. I'm trying to figure out where there it is. Anyway, they sign with the agent. They go on these little local tours of the mountains, like here and places like where I live, and all over Kentucky, and they do book signings and autograph signings. Hell, some of them make 6 figures just in autograph signings before they ever hit the draft. They have like little UK alumni games, like at my local high school gym here. At one time, my local high school gym, it seated 7,500 people in the late 70s and 80s. It still does, but in those days, it was the largest high school gym in the nation, right? And these guys have these UK versus Boyd County alumni games. They raise huge amounts for charity, and they'd have autograph sign-ins and memorabilia signings and on and on and on like that. And they make a ton of money before they ever go to the NBA. Right. And then if you play the UK, like Richie Farmer, he gets educated, comes back home. Next thing you know, he's the commissioner of agriculture. Or you're on some local advertisement for Zippo's chips or whatever it is, Golden Flake, and these guys, Jamal Bash, he's from New York City. When he gets
New York City. I'm sorry, I had to.
So Jamal Bashford, I don't know if y'all remember him in the NBA, but he's a player for us that was a big deal, right?
Yeah.
He comes back to Lex, right? Owns Toyota on Nicholasville and Lexus on Nicholasville.
I was going to say car dealership. That's what. That's pretty much the soup du jour for your popular player that just doesn't have enough juice to go to the pros. We get it with football players down here a lot. Saban's actually got his hands in some car dealerships here.
Yep.
Mercedes-Benz.
Nashville.
Yeah.
Well, Kenny Walker and Rex Chapman owned Hooters at one time. Not just one store, dozens of stores.
Wow, that's a lot of titties.
Oh, yeah, you talk about Kenny Skywalker, man. You talk about Rex Chapman, the Great White Hope, the guy that came second to Jordan in the slam dunk contest back in the mid-'80s, you know. Anyway, these guys, they come home and they make some money, man.
Yeah.
And it's a big deal for them.
That's what it's all about.
So you think, I'm going back to something you said earlier, you think more than half of the 64, is it 64? Is that how many?
Well, 65 now. I mean, they keep trying to figure out ways to drag more and more teams in this tournament, you know.
Yeah, I thought it had changed. So you think that it's well over half of the field that's...
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, a lot of news sources are reporting about 36 of your top-tier programs.
So there's going to be like two tournaments, or it's going to be the one?
We already know, just from the 4 assistant coaches that have been picked up by the FBI, we already know that USC, Arizona, Oklahoma State, and here in the state of Alabama, Auburn. Will probably
had a connection too, didn't it?
Yeah. Chuck Pearson has already been he's already been formally charged.
Well, how you think
Alabama. Yeah, there was an assistant at Alabama too. Had gotten swept up in it early on, right around the same time that Chuck Pearson reported for his County Orange.
Right.
Bruce Pearl's pretty slimy now. He how do you think he can go to Auburn, a school with basically only 2 years of NCAA success in its history, and put together a team that can compete? I mean,
he's a great coach. Come on, man.
Oh yeah, he's awesome.
Yeah,
you know he's great.
Well, I mean, you know, I he's got to have at least, you know, you can't really necessarily buy a win. Maybe you can buy a few of them, but you can't buy all of them. I mean, you know, you can't really argue with the success that he's had. But yeah, you're right. I mean, you know, as far as a basketball recruiting hotbed, Auburn hadn't had a name in NCAA basketball in a good long while.
Bruce Pearl is a good coach, and to be fair to him,
he balled at Tennessee. I mean, you know. When he was
at Tennessee, he had one NCAA violation for feeding his own players at his house.
Yeah.
I mean, God, you know, they just didn't treat him fairly at all. In my opinion, you know, you had kids there away from home, and you provided a nice meal for them, and you was nice to them in your own home. I don't know what in the world they wanted out of him, you know?
Yeah. But meanwhile, if those kids had gone over to Louisville, though, they could got a really, really great Hummer from an average-looking girl.
Well, hell, Rick Pitino, he even was messing around with a woman in a restaurant in public.
Mm-hmm.
He bent a woman over the table in public.
Bent her over the table.
Bent her over the table. Wow.
Yeah, I forget the name of the restaurant. You can look it up.
Like bent her over and just like had his way with her, or just bent her over.
Everybody's got a phone these days, or where they're at. YouTube that and see if you can find that.
Rick Pitino bends tape. How do I get Rick Pitino doggy style?
Yes.
Could I probably I'll try Rick.
I think her name was. I forget what her name was, but it's well known. He had sex in public with a woman.
So he didn't just bend her over the table. He actually bent her over the table and did what you usually do when you bend a woman over the table. Or a man. Right. I mean, you know, whatever.
He's a bold guy, man. He's like he's got some cojones, man. You know what I'm saying? But I mean, you think about this. Same people that's going to comment on this, like Dan Dockage, he was part of it. I think these AAU guys, these shoe company guys, these guys standing around at these AAU games and little tournaments and stuff like that. The same people that's commenting on a lot of this stuff are thick and deep in it too. I mean, it goes beyond just the different schools. It goes to the shoe companies. It goes to why the AAU went from a YMCA, also ran scrub league, to something that matters. Right? I mean, you used to go to the state tournament here in Kentucky. They call it the Sweet 16. The place was full of scouts. Well, hell, now they wait till the summer and go to the AAU pickup games where they don't even play defense. So then you get guys like Jamal Murray that played UK last year. Yeah, sure, the guy can score, but he never heard of defense.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm a big Pacers fan. I used to go to their games, had tickets the whole 9 yards, especially when I lived up in the Indy. Well, hell, who wants to pay to see players that can't play?
Smacking Off invites you to join us on the podcast. If you have an opinion on an upcoming game, some commentary on your conference, or want to roll with one of your fellow smackers on air, hit us up. You can message us at the Smacking Off or X's and O's Facebook pages, email me at maddenshannon@toothfairy.com, or call us on the Smack line, 304-508-BAIT. And as always, fuck your team.
I mean, this whole thing is going deeper. It's going to the whole.
Well, players
culture.
that can play half a game, really, if you want to get down to it. You know.
I mean,
It's fun to watch a kid dunk a
just
ball,
dunk
but
it.
you certainly you want to see a complete ball game if you're actually going to show up for one. That's just me. That's just me personally.
Yeah, if you look at the well-rounded players, the ones who can actually play the game and that do every facet and that's ready to play, they dominate over these guys that come in as these flash in the pans for 1 year in the NCAA. I mean, if you took the players of the 80s that stayed 4 years, if you took, say, a team that never even won a championship, let's take the 92 Knicks, right? And you took the 92 Knicks against the Golden State Warriors right now, them guys would beat them guys up on the perimeter so bad they wouldn't be hitting 33s a game. They'd be fixing them blood running out of their nose. I mean, they'd be also Rams. They wouldn't have a chance.
So you think it's going downhill that bad?
Yeah. I mean, you got people are paying the NBA is drafting players solely based on potential, and they're looking at them from 11 and 12 years old. Before they ever get to schools like Arizona and Louisville and North Carolina, three of the most egregious schools there is, in my opinion, as far as being crooked, right? Then anyway, by the time you get to those schools, they've been looking at you 5 or 6 years. You've been bought and sold. You know what shoe you're going to wear. So all of a sudden, you got a kid comes in, and he's going to demand to Roy Williams that he's not going to wear the same shoe as the rest of the team because he's already been bought and sold. Right? I mean, I've got to wear Adidas. I don't care that North Carolina wore Converse for 50 years and has a contract with them. You know, it's all about me and the name on the back of that jersey. Right. And it's the name on the front of the jersey is what matters to the fans. Right? Yeah. I don't want to see nothing on that jersey but Kentucky, right?
Hmm.
I'm interested in seeing
the number and the kid's last name. That's it.
Yeah. And it's changed. I mean, you won't see the rural players. They're not looking for them. They're not looking for the solid skills guy. But as you can see from Wisconsin a few years ago in the NCAA tournament, they ran right through the tournament because they had well-rounded players. The teams they beat UK, the greatest UK team in history, 31-1. No, 39-1. Right?
They beat them in the tournament.
Yeah, beat them in the tournament. I mean, why is that? Because their kids can play basketball. Athletic talent is not everything in that game. If you play pickup ball, I've played in New York City and Rucker Park. I've played in Monroe Street in Chicago. I've played in Kenwood and downtown Indianapolis.
From the streets, yo.
Yeah, I have. I've been places where I was the only Caucasian for miles in every direction, and I got picked. I mean, if you play just to get picked is a big deal. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, they Iroquois in Louisville, the Blue Courts in Lexington, the Dirt Bowl, everywhere I've ever been. Being a well-rounded player beats athleticism every time. A smart player, you can make a head fake, put 5 guys in the air, falling all over themselves, make them look like idiots. Right? Those smart ball players used to dominate the NBA too. I mean, you look at it, Isaiah Thomas was a smart ball player. Right? Larry Bird was a smart ball player. I mean, even Michael Jordan, he was the ultimate because he combined gifts and skill and being a heady ball player, and he had competitiveness, right? And now you got guys that can't even play, never learn to play it right. They're told from the time they're a teenager that they're the greatest thing since sliced bread. They get to a school like UK, they don't want to put in the work. And then you got Cal screaming his nuts off. He ain't the only one, but that's the way it works. So you look at the national championship last year. That wasn't one and done who won that national championship. Those were journeyman North Carolina players that stayed 3 and 4 years and knew what they was doing. They ran UK out of the building. It was close. They ran us out of the building. Next thing you know, they're fighting Gonzaga, taking the title
home. Real quick, off of the NCAA thing and how far basketball has gone down, what do you see going into this tournament? Kentucky.
Well, first off, how is this going to affect this upcoming tournament? Because there's, you can't have a scandal this large that's looming.
He said that more than 50% of the teams in are.
And how is that going to translate to play in the tournament? I mean, you have to kind of ask yourself that going into this tournament this year.
Now the commentators won't even. I doubt they'll even mention it. Right? I think the whole thing will be played. They're going to try to suck every dime they can.
Because there's too much money to be made there. I mean,
Exactly.
and all the way around, not just with TV, but just everything associated with college basketball during March Madness.
Yeah, but afterwards, I mean, like I said, the 11th seed could be crowned, could have the national championship by default by next spring.
Yeah, you're right.
What do you?
And I think this summer there's going to be a whole lot of fallout over it, and but they're going to suck it for all they can, and ESPN is going to opine about it all they can. But a lot of the guys, like I said, they got their fingers in those pockets too. And but look at this: North Carolina didn't even send kids to legitimate classes and gave them fake grades, and they didn't even get penalized.
Tell me this: did I read this wrong the other day? Does Kentucky have 10 losses?
Yes.
That's a lot of losses.
No,
for
it's
Kentucky.
9. It's 9. It'll be. They
Okay.
might have 10 right now because they're on TV right now.
Okay. Yeah, that's a lot of losses for Kentucky. You don't see that very often.
That's a down year for UK, but for Auburn, that's like one of their all-time great schedules.
Yeah.
But they, it's a down year at UK. But when you're the winningest program of all time, right? And you got the most conference championships, the most Final Four appearances, the most players in the NBA, right? The most storied program, the greatest coaches. I mean, they talk about Krzyzewski, but he's like compared to Adolph Rupp, he's also ran, So when we've had all that, one down year, you just say, well, next year will be better.
Is it going to decimate college basketball to the point? Are we going to have we're going to have a 32 team playoff next year?
I don't think that. But if you look back, I don't know if y'all remember none of us were alive when it happened. They had the City College of New York scandal back in the 50s, where players were paid, points shaven, on and on and on and on. They said it would destroy college basketball, but it came back stronger than ever. It made the NIPT into a second-round tournament and put the NCAA in the position of power they are now. I mean, look at this. North Carolina, what is the NCAA really about? It's a money-making organization.
Right.
I mean, North Carolina couldn't even put kids in legitimate classes, and they didn't even get slapped on the wrist. Okay?
Right.
Louisville has a shoe company arranged through one of their assistant coaches pay a kid $100,000 so he would go to Louisville and stay under the Adidas banner. I mean, it's been going on a long time. I mean, and some of the people that are talking the loudest about it, like Dan Dockich, have been part of it, in my opinion. I mean, I was on his call-in show here a couple years ago, talking about the influence of the shoe companies and how the AAU had gone from being a YMCA scrub league to something that mattered more than high school basketball. And he was talking about how great they were. When really what's happened is the shoe companies and the AAU have taken opportunities to play basketball at the next level away from rural kids. And it's all been a part, the agents and the NBA, it's all so that they could turn basketball into an inner city game. This goes way down. This goes beyond just merely playing players to changing the whole culture of basketball.
Right.
The days of having a Dan Issel, right? Y'all probably never heard of Larry Conley, but he's a local player here who was the SEC announcer for many years on Jefferson Pilot Sports. Larry Conley, Kyle Macy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Those kind of players, the hillbillies, the country Indiana boys. They're never going to get a chance under the current system to star in college basketball again.
Mm-hmm.
That's why because the shoe companies, the NBA, now that the AAU has gained power and went from being a YCMA, also ran scrub league into something that matters, right? Have shifted the entire focus of the entire game away from its roots, made it so it could be an inner city game, tied in with hip hop, to excite young guys and NBA fans.
So this is actually Tupac's fault, is what you're saying?
Well, this is before. This goes back before Tupac.
Curtis Blow. Yeah.
I'd
Don't
say
push me, cause I'm close to the edge.
basketball started changing in the '80s, right?
Yeah.
The country boy that was shooting hoops against the side of the barn, the Larry Birds of the world, like
Danny
I said,
Edge. Yeah.
There's not going to be any of those no more, right? They wanted to change the name, and whatever was flashy with hip hop or in the inner cities, that's what they strive for, and that's what they've got. So that's why you got players in the league now that can't play basketball, right? You draft a kid on potential. He don't know how to play the game. He might not have been in college at all, or even played 1 year, maybe.
Yep.
You know. Here's what's going to happen. Now, I believe that any of these schools could be capable of being swept up in this, especially because of the fact that you got guys that are like street agents for kids. Like, say you got a kid in Chicago who can really play. His uncle might act like he's some kind of street agent to him and go around to guys he knows, you know, and try to figure out a way to suck $1 out of his kid. You could be guilty by association three times removed, right? So the guy can say, hey, man, my nephew, he'll play at Notre Dame if you give his mama $50,000. Now, you don't have to tell him about it, but I'm going to convince his mama she needs to tell him to do what to do.
Mm-hmm.
So you got a kid at Christ the King High School in Chicago. He looks like the greatest thing since sliced bread, and somebody gives his mama $50,000 through 2 other people who ain't attached directly to nothing. And now that school is culpable. But, so I'm not going to say that Kentucky's clean because that's how this stuff works. But I will say this. I think Kentucky has more chance of any of the blue bloods to come out of this thing smelling like a rose because of the fact that they don't have to buy kids.
Yeah,
right?
I definitely see that.
Yeah.
Well, you didn't exaggerate any when you said that Kentucky is the top of the heap in college basketball because
there's no doubt.
The case.
Yeah, no doubt.
I mean, you can throw in North Carolina,
Indiana,
in
maybe
an argument.
during
UCLA had that run, but other than that, UCLA hasn't really been that strong, have they, Bob?
No, well, UCLA, they won those 11 championships over like 20 years, so that's a great run, right? But I think that 7 of those championships, just of the 11 they won, were against Indiana and Kentucky.
Yep.
Right, and by the time that it was over, Bobby Knight was starting to wouldn't look like an old man.
Yeah,
and he was out coaching him. Matter of fact, and then you had Houston in those days was great too. And UCLA and Houston played what they called in them days the greatest game of all time, where they had an Astrodome. And I think that was the end for Wood in that particular game. He seen where it was going. It was a day where gentlemen's agreements could get players in, and they all paid them all in them days. I don't care what they say; they paid them all. $100 handshakes.
All the big programs, you mean?
All the programs. C-28s. I mean, how do you think Jason Williams gets at Marshall? I don't know if y'all remember White Chocolate, right?
Mm-hmm.
And played for Florida, gets in trouble, goes to Marshall.
Oh, yeah.
How do you think that, these are local players, guys from right here. O.J. Mayo, right? How do you think he ended up where he went? How about Patrick Patterson, right? These are all guys from right here. He's now on the Raptors. No, he's on Houston now. But anyway, these are guys who are local players, right? I mean, I've seen a high school player in my life get a Z-28 for transferring from Boyd County High School to Russell.
Oh, that was just a loaner, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, Bob, before we wrap this up, and I know we haven't gotten into the conference tournaments yet, so this is still going to be kind of a stab in the dark. Who do you see topping out the seed?
In the Southeastern Conference?
Well, I mean,
the whole thing.
Just nationally.
Nationally, I've got Villanova and Virginia in the final game.
And who's your top? Do you go through do you pick your top seeds?
Well, I mean, I got my own idea what's going to happen.
Have you already filled out your bracket yet?
No, but I'll give you a final 4 right now. Depending on how the brackets fall out, I think you're looking at Wichita State, Xavier, Villanova, and Virginia. And I think Duke will slip in there somehow because you seem to arrange the brackets for them to win.
That's a probably minus Villanova. That's a very unusual Final Four bracket.
Well, all those teams, Villanova and Xavier have coaching tree is part of the same coaching tree.
Yeah, and Xavier has also had a storied program.
Well, I can tell you right now, Tiggy Doms. I know you probably heard him on the show before, Bob.
Yeah,
he's a Washington guy in football, but he pulls for Gonzaga.
Yeah, I was going to say he's for the Zags.
And he's convinced that Gonzaga is going to.
This is their year.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is definitely their
They
year.
were convinced last year. Now I take my hat off to him for making it to the final game, but. I mean, Gonzaga is like a team that used to come to Kentucky, so they draw a check. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And they and maybe out there in the West now that UCLA.
And to be fair, I mean, Gonzaga it's taken them a long time, but they finally they have finally brought their basketball program to national prominence for a better part of well over a decade now.
I actually read something about those guys. The college itself. They're a Jesuit college.
Really?
Yes.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, there's like 20 of them that actually have decent basketball programs. I didn't look at the list.
Now, I got them in the Sweet 16 for sure, and they could contend, and I'll tell you why. So you got two big men at Gonzaga that can really play. One of them 6'11" and can shoot the three, right? But they will pound it inside, which a lot of these teams are missing these days. That's why Trae Young's not going to do nothing. Oklahoma's not going to do nothing. I mean, because they got one guy. He's basically Allen Iverson on steroids. And not the good things about Allen Iverson. I'm talking about the fact that he's jacking up 35, 40 shots a game. Hell, in the old days, if you give a guy 25 shots, he better have 25 points. So it takes this guy 40 shots a game to get 25 points. Well, he's not even shooting 50%.
Yeah.
Right? Well, Gonzaga, because they got a big guy, they can dump it down to him. Everybody collapses on him because if they don't, they're going to lose the game. The big man still rules. When it comes down to winning and losing, I don't care what fanciful BS they put on TV, right? So Gonzaga feeds it to their bigs. I've watched them play. They got a real game. They do actually feed it to their bigs. People collect on them, and everybody on the perimeter is a shooter. Now, if you do that, because the pacing of an NCAA tournament game, there's way more TV timeouts and stuff in it. So you can't really tire them down. That's how Kentucky used to beat them in the tournament games. There was only so many TV timeouts. So UK would just run them to death until their tongues were hanging out. Well, you can't do that anymore, right? So what you got to do, it's a slower paced game and a lot more half-court sets, the way the NCAA is set up now. Mm-hmm. So in that scenario, if Gonzaga can make it past the Final Eight, they've got just as much chance as anybody other than Virginia and Villanova to win it. But if you look at the brackets, the way the brackets are always set up, they're going to give some kind of break to do.
Well, I'm just going to go and put this out here for Tiggy to hear. Tiggy, if you're listening, if Gonzaga gets to the Final Four, we'll let you on the show in off season.
Yeah.
If not, then we'll see you next football season.
Yeah.
Well, Gonzaga can do it. They're built for the NCAA tournament, and like I said, they've got shooters. Well, if they collapse, if people's dumb enough to collapse on their centers, it's pick your poison. Do you want to get beat from the inside? Do you want to get beat from the outside? I watched them play St. Mary's, and St. Mary's is a pretty good team.
Bob, we're fixing to have to wrap this up. We got another segment, but we're gonna hit you back.
And be sure to check out Bob's book, Breaking Cardinal Rules, Basketball, and the Escort. Oh, wait a minute. That's not your book.
we're gonna get back with you before this tournament gets started because
yeah, we'll see you back here in March. How about that?
Sounds like a winner. I appreciate it.
Hey, man, we always appreciate you having you on the show. And hey, man, good luck to you.
Yep, and go Wildcats, right?
Hallelujah.
All right, bye-bye.
Please subscribe to our channel by clicking the small smacking off icon at the top of the screen now. Click the link at the bottom of the screen to watch last week's episode.